Thank you for that enthusiastic response. Let's try that again. Hi, everybody. Even the personal touch. I really appreciate that. Let me turn my iPad on, otherwise I'm completely freestyling this, and you guys know how bad. Daryl can do that. I tell you what, props to Daryl Cyrus for teaching without notes. Let's take a moment to recognize that. Aiden, pull my highs back just a little bit. I hear just a little bit of high ring. I cannot preach without notes or teach without notes or do anything of the sort. And it's actually been like a year and a half since I've been up here to teach a full-blown lesson. So, oh boy, let's see how this goes. I thought about starting off with something like really cool. Like I was going to do this rap about like everything we've learned through the entire year and Abraham and the book of John. And I didn't have time to do that. And I thought about just doing like a rap about, like I've had all these lesson ideas bouncing around. Because again, it's been like a year and a half. I thought about writing a song about that, and I didn't have time to do that. So, I'm not starting with anything cool or creative or fun like that. Instead, how about we do this? And Mike, I have my clicker, so I'll get this in a second. I'm going to base this lesson tonight around the song Control by 10th Avenue North that we've done in the past. So let's sing the chorus together and kind of get it in our minds before we dive into this. There it is. Feel those nice pads? You like that? It's cool. That'll help us find what note to sing. All right, sing it with me so I don't sound like an idiot. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to take my hands off of my life in the way it should go. And the second half sounds just like the first. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to open my hands up and give you control. Hey, thanks for playing along. That's good. If you guys wouldn't have sung there, I would have felt really awkward and just going home, but you did. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Before we dive kind of back into that song a little bit later, can somebody tell me what have we been studying recently in youth group? Jolia, please. Abraham, thank you. You get a prize. Your prize is a high five from your cousin that's sitting next to you. So there you go. Thank you for that. All right, can somebody tell me what the name of the actual series is? That's a little bit trickier. It's on the first slide every week. Grab your seat is not the answer, Lane. And I think it's get a seat, not grab your seat. And Christian, Synergy is not the title of the series. Anybody else? I'll give you a hint. Abraham, learning. Aaliyah? So close. Learning to, yes. All right, between the two of you, after youth, high five each other, because between the two of you got it. It's Abraham learning to love and trust God, or trust and love God. I think I put it backwards on my own notes. Learning to trust and love God. And the love part is pretty easy to say, right? Like, I love you. Like, I go up to Joey, like, hey, I love you, bro. What's going on? Like, we say that stuff. I think the word love's gotten diluted so much that we can easily toss, yeah, I love God. I mean, I'm sure there's people that go to your school that have never set foot in a church, or it's been years, and if you say, hey, do you love, yeah, I love God. God's my homeboy, something like that. But do you trust him? I think trust is such a huge part of the love. Like, I think it all ties together. And I love how Daryl's tied that together over the past couple of weeks, or maybe it's been a month or so since we started Abraham. But the trust part is tough. It's the point where we have to give God full control of our lives. And I think if we're really honest with ourselves, we say, yeah, I want to go all in. I want to give God total control. But then we pull back a little bit because, yeah, we trust him, but do we really trust him? Or maybe we say that at this point, Momentum Camp, had a great night of youth, I trust him here, and not necessarily in this situation. So that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight, how trust and control and love all go hand in hand. Question, do you ever feel out of control? I'd raise both hands, both feet. Have you ever felt out of control? Maybe in a car or something like that. But I'm talking about just in life, man. Like totally overwhelmed by life. Like you can't add one more thing to your plate or you might collapse. I need to put both feet up here. And you don't know when you're going to be able to just relax and take time to breathe again. And if one more person says one more thing at the wrong time, in the wrong place, I'm going to snap because I can't handle one more thing. I put that there for dramatic effect. I almost took it away earlier and I forgot why I had it there. But have you ever felt like that? I mean, I'm being half joking, throwing the thing on the ground. But you ever felt like that? Like just go ahead, raise your hand. Again, both hands, both feet, like that. That's something, like as I was writing this lesson, I was like, I felt these emotions like welling up inside of me because I feel like that so often. I'm going to pick this up so nobody trips. And then I'm going to find myself in my notes. All right, after the part where I yell. Okay, anxiety is real. I think we all deal with it to some extent or another. We all deal with stress. You all have schoolwork. You all have other activities. You have family life. Stuff happens at home, siblings. Stress and anxiety are a real thing. Some of us have it worse than others. Some of us have different triggers than others, but we all deal with it. And I actually dealt with some anxiety trying to decide what to teach about. It's kind of funny. I was talking to Laura last week whenever I was trying to plan for the lesson. Daryl actually asked me a couple months ago, I think, and we put it on the calendar. I didn't know what I was going to be doing this week, but I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And I was really excited to be able to share with you guys because I've had a lot of different thoughts that I just thought I'd enjoy sharing with the group. When it came down to it, I think it was last Thursday. It was Thursday night. I told Daryl, hey, Friday, we'll get together and talk about the lesson. It was Thursday night, and I was like, I had all these ideas, and they're gone. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, and I started to kind of freak out. You can ask my wife. True story. I did start to kind of freak out because I was like, I don't know what to do, and I got to go to work tomorrow and tell Daryl what to teach about. And then this idea of control and surrender came to mind. Is anybody else really hot? Can somebody turn the AC on? Does anyone know how to turn the AC on? Thank you. Send the blind guy. Brian Burkheimer, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. Let's just deal with that now because it was gonna bug me the whole time. Thank the Lord for air conditioning. So this idea of control and surrender, which are two of my favorite songs, kind of came to mind. So I thought, surely there's passages in the Bible. Let's crack a window. Surely there's passages in the Bible that talk about surrender. So I'm going to go look in Scripture and see what I can find about that. So I did what any good biblical theological scholar would do. I went to Google, and I typed in Psalms about surrender, or Psalms of surrender, I think is what it says, right? Yeah, Psalms of surrender. And the first one that came up was Psalm 139. You see right there, it says David's Psalm surrender 139. And I started thinking about it, and it hit me that I actually have a sticky note on my desktop on my computer that has Psalm 139, verses 23 to 24 on it. That's on the desktop of my computer. Every time I open up my computer, before I open anything up, that's what's on the desktop. Because at one point, a year and a half ago, I was dealing with some anxiety. I thought, like, Lord, I got to give this over to you. And I prayed, and he gave me this scripture to use just because a daily reminder. So here's what it says. I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. That's a pretty cool reminder, right? I mean, if you're dealing with stress, anxiety, issues with giving control to God, that's why I put it on my desktop, because I thought, like, if I read that every morning and I pray that to God, search me, test me, know my anxious thoughts, see if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting, which is obviously God's way. Like, man, my day's going to start off great. Here's the problem. This is on my screen every day, and probably 90% of the time, if not more, I completely ignore it. That comes up on my screen, and I'm like, all right, I got to get rolling. Most of you guys that do youth band, a lot of you guys are on Facebook, so I get on that first thing normally and just start checking, hey, did anybody message me on Facebook or something like that? And I think, oh, wait, I should probably get caught up on my Instagram feed, and I do that. And then I start thinking, no, I got to get back to work. I got to check my email, so I go to open up Gmail, and I go check that. And somebody sent me a funny YouTube video, so I open up YouTube. And 3 videos later, I'm like, no, I got to get focused on work. And what do when I focus? I open up Spotify, turn on some good Christian music, get focused, open up Google Chrome. That's my browser of choice. Shout out to Google Chrome. It's better than Safari. So I open up Google Chrome, and I get to work, and then I work all morning, and then I go home for lunch, and perfect. I can take, like an hour lunch break or whatever. It's pretty flexible. So I heat up my lunch, and I spend an hour in the Word with God and prayer. Or maybe I get on Netflix and just watch a couple shows while I'm on my break. So that's like my day for me, and all of a sudden, can anyone see the sticky note anymore? No. Can anyone? No. Why? I mean, it's there, but it's underneath. Justin can see it somehow. You see it between the Gmail and the Facebook. Yeah, there's just a little bit there, but you can't read it. So that's what happens to me. I completely fill up my plate with all this stuff, and that's like a metaphor, and it's also literally what I do. I cover up my desktop with all that stuff. I watch Netflix on my TV with my Roku stick, but same difference. Like, I cover it up, and I'm not even thinking about it anymore. And I just had this thought as I was preparing this lesson. If you're a follower of Christ, and this is talking to me too, If you're a follower of Christ and you're more anxious to read your news feed or scroll through Instagram or read your tweets or do whatever it is with that Snap thing, Snapchat. I knew that. I just don't know how it works. If you're more anxious to do that than to spend time with God, you're doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. That picture pretty much tells you right there, I am doing it wrong. I'm going to walk over this way. I feel like I need to give you guys some love too. I've been over on that side the whole time. But like that's it. I think that's not what God had intended for us whenever he laid out this plan in his word and gave us the ability to communicate directly to him with prayer. And that's what we do anyway. So again, as I was talking to Laura about this, shout out to my wife because she helps me with everything, including feeding me and stuff. She reminded me of this quote. We looked it up. It's actually by Martin Luther. I think Smalls has that same outfit. I was going to ask him, but he's not here tonight. I don't know where he is. I'm pretty sure I've seen him wear that. So this is Martin Luther. He said, and he's been dead for a long time, but it's still a good quote. I have so much to do today that I'm going to need to spend 3 hours in prayer in order to be able to get it all done. Sit and let that one sink in. Does that make logical sense? Like on the world's logic, does that make sense? I have so much to do today, I'm going to spend 3 hours not doing any of that stuff. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, but he makes such a great point. If we did this more often, we'd probably do a much better job at giving God control of all of our circumstances. Even if I took, 20 minutes at the beginning of my day, I think I'd do a much better job during the day dealing with my anxiety and dealing with giving God control over my circumstances. But the fact of the matter is I don't. Raise your hand if you've ever done this, 3 hours of prayer to get ready. Okay. All right, we're all on the same level then. That's good. So back to that initial question, do you ever feel out of control? I had an instance a couple weeks ago where I really did. And it wasn't necessarily whenever, we talk about when you feel distant from God, and man, those times are real. For me, it wasn't. Like, I didn't feel distant from God. Like, I've actually felt fairly close to God. I've been fairly regularly in his word, even if it's not, at the beginning of the day. I didn't feel distant from God, but this still happened. I hit a point where I just felt completely overwhelmed by everything I have going on in my life and by things I had to get done and people I needed to talk to, and then finally something just totally set me off. So I went for a drive just to disconnect, and a little side note, it's okay to go out for a drive and disconnect unless you don't have your driver's license, and then don't do that. Find something else to get away. But I just needed to get away from people and spend time with God, and I just vented to God. And at that point, I still thought I was in the right for feeling the way I do. Like, oh man, I got this going on, and this person did this, and I got to do, and these stupid kids won't even respond to my Facebook messages. Not really, but like things were piling up, and I'm telling God all this stuff as if he doesn't really know. Like, hey God, by the way, I know you're up there, but just in case you're wondering what's going on with me, here's what's going on. Like, I mean, come on, he obviously knows what's going on. And I got frustrated, I got upset, I got even a little angry because I was doing everything right. And everybody else was putting all this pressure on me, which is just total garbage. That's not what the truth was at all. Excuse me. I'm going to get a drink of water. But that's not the truth of the matter at all. I'm putting all this pressure on myself. God never put this pressure on me to be perfect and do all these things. So I'm doing it to myself. And then finally, I just stopped. Like, I just kind of shut up and listened. And I just started singing to God. I sang, "Here I am, all my intentions, all my obsessions, I want to lay them all down in your hands. Only your love is vital, though I'm not entitled, still you call me your child." And at this point, I'm like in tears driving down the road, hoping nobody sees me because I look awful when I put my sunglasses on so nobody sees it. And I'm singing, "God, you don't need me, somehow you want me, oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to take my hands off of my life and the way it should go." And the second half says pretty much the same thing, but then somehow it frees me to open my hands up and to give you control. And I'm singing that, just kind of breaking down, just realizing like, man, I've made this all about me and what I can control. And that's not right. Like, that was totally wrong. What a reminder. I think music is such a powerful tool. That's why I do it for a living, because I believe in it so much. But it was such a reminder. God doesn't need me to do any of this stuff. The only person putting pressure on me was me. God wants me to follow after him and to do well and do all these things that he's put before me, but he doesn't need me to do anything. He wants me to do that. So in that moment, in my really awesome minivan, God actually, I actually had kind of this flashback. You ever watch TV? And I love flashbacks and kind of getting a backstory. I actually had a flashback while I'm driving the van, crying, sunglasses, all the whole spiel, to when I was about 12 years old at a summer camp. I never went to Camp Manawagon as a kid, which is kind of a bummer because I love Camp Manawagon. This is a different camp. But I remember when I think I was 12, it was the first time I remember actually encountering God in a very real way. I don't know if you guys remember, a couple weeks ago, Daryl talked about Abraham going back to Bethel. He traveled back. This is Genesis 13, 3 and 4, from the Negev. I don't know how to say these words. He went from place to place until he came to Bethel, in the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, and where he had built his first built an altar. I should turn around this way. There, Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Daryl reminded us, think back to where you had a moment where you connected with God. Maybe it's the first time. For me, it was when I was 12 at this camp. Maybe, a youth conference. Maybe it was right here in this room or at VBS. If we're followers of Christ, at some point we've had a moment like that. And I thought that was a really cool challenge that Daryl gave us, and I kind of want to bring it back up again. So if any of the leaders have note cards, I think a couple of you guys have that. If you have your phone, use your phone for this. But if you don't, leaders that have cards, could you guys stand up? If you don't have a phone, raise your hand, and we're going to give you a card. And I want you to think about this. When was a time where you connected with God on a really deep level? It's not necessarily when you got saved. It could be. Or maybe just when's the first time you really encountered God? I want to give you guys a couple minutes to think about that and write down and just kind of pray about getting back to that place. And I'm going to doodle around a little bit on the guitar while you guys do that so it's not dead silent. So please don't talk to each other. I can't read your lips. Okay, get a card or your phone and think of that place where you first, or a time where you really connected with God and felt Him in a really real way. I want you to write that down on your card or type it into your phone, and then we'll come back to that here in a little bit. Aiden, if you could get me channel 18, please. Cut the lapel for now. Sound. Probably need a little bit more there. So, all right, let me find where I am in my notes. Everybody has that down. Turn down the pads a little bit. Back to our first question. Do you ever feel out of control? Raise your hand if you ever feel out of control, if you ever felt out of control. Okay, good. You shouldn't be in control in the first place. Everybody give me the Sunday school answer. Who should be in control? Wow, was that really difficult? Try that again. Who should be in control? God, Jesus, yeah, any of the names of God, good. God should be in control. That's the obvious and correct answer, but so often we're not there. Maybe you're here tonight and your relationship with God's been great. That's awesome. Keep it up. Don't slack off even for a day. Don't feel like you can just relax for a day because that turns into weeks and months and you just keep sliding downhill. Keep that up if you're in a good spot with God. Maybe you're here tonight and your first encounter with God or the last time you encountered God feels so far away that you struggle to believe even if it was real. I want to tell you that was real. If you've encountered God before, don't doubt that. Please don't doubt that. If you've ever encountered God before, and I don't even mean like an emotional, like, oh, I'm so tingly. Like maybe you've had that experience. Maybe you've just read something in His Word and be like, wow. Like that really came to life. That was a real moment. Like think back to that moment. Maybe somewhere in between. Maybe you're not low, maybe you're not high, maybe you're somewhere in the middle. No matter where we are with our walk in Christ, we struggle with taking control back from Him. It's absolutely crucial that we continue to surrender control back over to Him. So here's my challenge for you. If you haven't been giving God full control of your life, and chances are you haven't, at least to the full extent where you should be, take care of that before we get into the summer. We have one more week. Daryl's going to wrap us up next week with our last lesson in Abraham. We have our parking lot party, and then we're off for the summer for all the cool events like camp and Momentum and stuff like that. But don't wait until you get to camp or to Momentum to give control back over to God. I've heard so many of you say it, and I've said it too, like, I can't wait till we get back to Momentum or to camp because I feel so close to God there. That's great. But think about how great those weeks would go if we went into it already prepared, already handing things over to God, already in the right mindset. We don't need to spend the first 3 days just like letting go again. I mean, think about how cool that would be if we went into it already on our way up and already feeling close to God. So just as a side note, some of you probably aren't going to Camp or Momentum this year. Like, that's fine. Don't feel like you're missing out on the only opportunity to encounter God. Like, you can encounter God here, you can encounter God at your house, out whenever you're doing it at your work this summer. Don't feel like you're left out just because you can't make it to one or both of those events. So we're going to finish out tonight looking at that psalm one more time and kind of paralleling it with the lyrics to the song. So again, it says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me." And then the beginning of the two verses, I think, fall so much in line with that psalm and that prayer of David. "Here I am, all my intentions, all my obsessions. I want to lay them all down. I've had plans shattered and broken, things I had hoped in, and they fall through my hands." So here's what I want you to do. Get your note card, get your phone, do whatever you have. I want you to write down, what are your intentions? What are some intentions you have? What are your plans for the summer or something you intend to do in the long term? Or whatever, write that down. I also want you to write down, what obsessions do you have? That could be your hobbies. I mean, some of your obsessions could start out as good things and just get way overblown. Is it a sport? Is it an activity? Is it a person? Is it an app on your phone? What are your obsessions? And then plans, this kind of goes along with the intentions again. Write down your plans and things that you've hoped in, things that you put your hope in and your trust in that aren't Jesus. I want you to write those down or type them down and be praying about that. And then we're going to come together and sing that song together before we break for the night. But I want you to take a couple minutes to do that, and then we'll get back. Move over to the mic here, Aiden. The cool thing about that psalm and how this song lines up is that the next part says, "And lead me in the way everlasting." God doesn't leave us hanging with these anxious thoughts and despair. He leads us in the way everlasting. And the second parts of those verses say, in your hands only your love is vital. And though I'm not entitled, none of us are entitled to any of this, still he calls us his children. We can call him Father. And it says, you have plans to redeem and restore me. You're behind and before me. Oh, help me believe. Let's let that be our prayer tonight. Make sure I didn't miss anything. And as we stand, let's go ahead and stand to sing this song. Hold on to that card or to your phone in your hand. Don't be texting anybody, but hold on to that and have those thoughts in mind. What are your plans and your intentions that you need to lay down before Jesus tonight? Think about that while we sing this song, and let that be a prayer. You can go ahead and kill the lights, Aiden. That's fine. I can go to the first slide. Go ahead and take control of this, Micah. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to take my hands off of my life in the way it should go. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to open my hands up and give you control. I give you control. Here I am, all my intentions, all my obsessions, I want to lay them all down in your hands. Only your love is vital, though I'm not entitled, still you call me your child. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to take my hands off of my life in the way it should go. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to open my hands up and give you control. I give you control. I've had plans shattered and broken, things I have hoped in fall through my hands. Have plans to redeem and restore me. You're behind and before me. Oh, help me believe. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to take my hands off of my life in the way it should go. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to open my hands up and give you control. I give you control. Somehow you want me. The King of Heaven wants me. So this world has lost its grip on me. You want me. Somehow you want me. The King of Heaven wants me. So this world has lost its grip on me. God, you don't need me, but somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to take my hands off of my life in the way it should go. Oh, God, you don't need me. Somehow you want me. Oh, how you love me. Somehow that frees me to open my hands up and give you control. I give you control. I give you control. I want to give you control. You want me. Somehow you want me. The King of Heaven wants me. So this world has lost its grip on me. Daryl's going to come close us out in prayer.
Thanks. Join me in prayer. Dear Father, I want to say thank you for Ryan, and thank you for the challenge he's given us, that when we have worry and we have anxiety in our hearts, that we would trust in the fact that you have control, that we don't have to be in control, but that you are a good God and that you love us, and you do have plans. And I pray that we would seek after you. And I pray that as we go into the summer, that will be true, that whatever comes our way, that we would understand you are a God that is in control, and we can trust what you want to do with us. We give this prayer in your Son's name. Amen.